Welcome into another edition of the Hops and Spirits Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Green, and we have a fun one for you this week. Yes, we wrapped up Summer School 2021 with a little extra credit, and I appreciate Jared D. Tierley for coming on and talking alcohol policies. But now we're back into kind of bourbon and whiskey, beer, all that fun stuff. This week we're talking about bourbon. You all have heard of Ole Smoky down in the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area. Well, did you know they do bourbon? We'll be talking to Robert Hall here in just a second. Remember to check us out on all of our social media pages at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find us on YouTube as well. Because you don't want to miss our Give It a Try highlights that drop every Monday and our cocktail quickies that shake things up on Friday. Those are all across our social media sites and our YouTube page. So don't wait around. Go find them, like us, follow us, subscribe, and you'll be getting some great content. And now let's get into the episode. Joining us here on the Hops and Spirits Podcast is Robert Hall, CEO of Ole Smoky Distillery down in Tennessee. Robert, thanks for taking some time to talk whiskey with us.
Jonathan, good to be with you.
Now, I always like to start these things off with one tough question. Sometimes they're tough, sometimes they're not. It just kind of depends. Your one tough question is, we're going to be talking about, alcoholic beverages. So I figured, what's your favorite non-alcoholic beverage?
Oh, okay, it's an interesting one. Coffee. Have to say coffee. Love the flavor and love the stimulation that it provides. Drink a lot of it.
I was going to say, I have a feeling you're a busy man, so you probably might need a little bit to keep you going all day.
Busy guy, so no, enjoy it a lot.
See, I've just never gotten into coffee. I love beer, but if you put coffee in beer, that's no go for me. If you ask my wife, it would be pop or soda for me, because I kind of still need that caffeinated kick. But a guilty pleasure of mine is strawberry lemonade. I love that. Strawberry lemonade. I love that, but I can't drink too much because it's just a little too sweet. That she gives me.
Well, you'd be thrilled about us. We just this last weekend we introduced strawberry lemonade whiskey.
Ooh.
Which sounds unusual to some, but it tastes great. So, well, just launched in our distillery last weekend. So,
well, I might have to look into that because that sounds like that could be pretty good, and maybe some fun cocktails could come out of that as well.
Absolutely. Great for cocktails.
Now, you haven't been with Ole Smoky since Joe launched it back in the day. You came on here a couple years ago. How did you become part of the Ole Smoky family?
Yeah, well, I became CEO in 2016, so it's been a little over 5 years now. The board asked me to take the position, and I've enjoyed it ever since, and loving, helping, grow the company. However, I was involved in the company before that. I actually first learned about the company in 2012. There was an article in Business Week about 3 attorneys in Tennessee founding the company in 2010, and they're looking to grow it. And I said to myself, well, I was with a group of people who had kind of a good depth of experience in consumer products, and I said, man alive, we could help that company. And after a few weeks, I was able to find the advisor to the founders, Joe Baker being the lead founder. And Joe was actually working with this advisor to actually raise some money to help the company grow. And so eventually, during the latter part of 2013, during the course of 2013, we had those conversations. And we actually invested in the company in November of 2013 to help the company grow. And then after a couple of years, the board asked me to kind of take the helm of the company and work with the board and work with the founders to grow it. And we've had a lot of fun doing it.
I was going to say, you guys have done a whole lot of things, and Joe seems like he's got that entrepreneurial spirit and wants to see things constantly grow. Well, I guess another question is, a lot of people, when they're launching stuff like these distilleries, they're looking at bourbon. That's the big thing. Tennessee whiskey down where y'all are at, maybe more so than bourbon, but everything's a bourbon, I guess, to some. Why did Joe and the company look more toward the moonshine at first?
Well, the company was founded in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in the Smoky Mountains, which is a real home of moonshine. Moonshine's been, made and distilled in these parts for more than a couple of hundred years, and so it was a natural to launch with that product. It was clearly different to many others, as you point out, but it really, honored the settlers in the area. In fact, the first product, which was the original corn whiskey moonshine, was actually made from a recipe that was owned by the family of Joe Baker.
Oh, wow.
And it had been in the family for over 100 years because his family had settled in the area, quite a few decades ago. And so that this recipe was owned by the family. And so it was a celebration of the heritage. This is the home of moonshine. And, we believe our brand, kind of captures that early pioneer's determination and, an independent spirit. And so we pursued that, and fortunately it's worked out quite well. We're the leader in the moonshine category by a long way now.
I was gonna say, did anyone kind of look at that thought as just like, y'all are crazy? I mean, because no one else was really doing that at the moment, at least maybe on the scale that Joe and the team wanted to do.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But whenever people start businesses, some people have a different opinion. But if you believe it, you just keep charging. And we at the company have believed that was the right thing to do. It's a tremendous point of difference versus many other spirits companies, and we've been able to develop some really strong competitive advantages versus other spirits companies, and had a bit of fun doing it. So, contrary to some people's thinking, but we've done okay, and we're still around, 11 years later.
Yeah, and doing quite well with multiple locations, and what the busiest distillery in America as far as tourists. So I think you're doing something right.
World's most visited distillery. That's right.
So, but we talk a lot of bourbon and whiskey on this as well. And you guys recently launched the James Ownby Reserve Tennessee Bourbon. How did that come about, and why now, and why now?
Why? Well, it was ready, to prepare a straight Tennessee bourbon whiskey takes time.
Sure.
for obvious reasons, aging being a key part. Ever since the company started, Joe and then the managers who, evolved within the company have always been thinking and developing and testing ideas in a wide variety of spirits product, and straight Tennessee bourbon whiskey was absolutely one of them. We've done numerous samples because we have all of the equipment. We have the cookers, the fermentation tanks, and the pot stills that we use to make the moonshine. Well, you can easily adapt that to make straight bourbon whiskey. So we were doing all sorts of testing. We've used small barrels to hopefully have the benefit of aging more quickly than perhaps it would do in a 53-gallon barrel. And so it's always been on the cards. And we now felt we have a product that's ready to go, that deserves a premium image, a premium price, and so we introduced James Ownby. Now, why James Ownby? Because that's the other part of the story, is that, as I mentioned earlier, Joe Baker's family has been in this area for well over 100 years, and Joe's fifth great grandfather, James Ownby, was quite a notable person. He fought in the Revolutionary War. He was one of the Over Mountain Men.
Wow.
Who fought in a revolutionary battle, and his family migrated into this area, and Joe is a result of that, I guess you'd say. And so we felt that the product was good enough to celebrate Joe's family and James Ownby in particular, and so we developed a package which I've got here. You've probably seen it. James Ownby Reserve, fine Tennessee straight bourbon whiskey, and we just introduced that just in this last month, actually, in middle of June, and launched it into a few select markets and in two of our distilleries and in the state of Tennessee.
Well, and I guess another question I have is, because you all have had the flavored whiskeys for a little while now. Have you always been kind of making that whiskey and just storing it and waiting for the right time? And has that kind of been the thought process of, obviously, as you said, The one thing with bourbon and whiskey is it takes time, especially if you want to do it right. Right. So
no, we've been making products all the time and storing them, putting them away, and we sometimes buy on the market if it's good quality stuff, and taste it and see if it would blend with the stuff that we're making, and then store things ourselves. So we just felt that we were ready to go to market with this product. It was ready. It was a 5-year aged Tennessee bourbon. There's a couple of actually different barrels in it, but the youngest is 5 years, and they just went together beautifully. And we're ready to do it. So it takes time to do these things, and we didn't want to introduce anything until we were ready.
And this is one where I've been talking to some friends of mine that are kind of in the industry. They work at some of the liquor stores and so forth. Has some of the stuff that went into the James Ownby been used in some of the flavored whiskey, or was that a whole separate thing that you guys had?
In this particular case, no. The flavored whiskeys are separate, just a whole separate recipe. It could. There's nothing stopping it, but at the moment, our flavored whiskeys are just developed under a separate, separate recipe. And we really got into the flavored whiskeys after Ole Smoky merged with what was called Davy Crockett's Barrel House at the time, which was another distillery in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And they had a very good quality range of flavored whiskeys, whereas Ole Smoky was very much on the moonshines, sold in a mason jar. And so we rechristened Davy Crockett's Barrel House the Ole Smoky Barrel House, and we dressed all of their fine products in Ole Smoky, and we noticed that the sales went up under the Ole Smoky brand, which said to us that Ole Smoky meant something in whiskey. We felt it did, but this was kind of validation that was the case, which gave us the confidence to launch a selection of those flavored whiskey products into wholesale, which we did in the fall of 2017, and they've just kept on growing ever since, and that's been a very positive impact on the business overall.
Well, I was going to say you perfectly segue into my next question, because did the purchase merger of Davy Crockett Whiskey and Distillery play a role into being able to kind of maybe scale up to be able to have actual brand name bourbon under your alls?
Oh, absolutely. Even though Ole Smoky was doing some of its development work on its own prior to the merger with Davy Crockett, the people at Davy Crockett's had a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience, and really added a lot of value. So we were able to work and just integrate all of them into the company, try to make it seamless, for them. And they've really added a lot of value, just that knowledge and experience, and increase in our operational ability. So, no, it was a great marriage. Ole Smoky may have been able to do it on its own just by doing experimentation, but that merger just allowed us to accelerate it and do the work and make the launches with more confidence.
Well, and I'm guessing too that this isn't the only one release you all are going to have. Will we see more down the road?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not going to tell you when and where, but no, we have a real culture here of just continuous innovation. Just in the last 2 years, we've introduced over 25 new products, and we will continue to introduce quite a number of new products. Relating to the James Ownby brand, we're certainly thinking about that, but it won't be within the next year, possibly end of 22 or perhaps into 2023 when we feel we're ready. We'll only go to market when the product is ready. And as you know, that takes time, and we're not going to do anything before it's time.
Well, I love to hear that, because some want to rush, and things can go a little haywire with bourbon and whiskey when you rush things to the market. I guess another question I have is, obviously, the Ownby name plays to the heritage of Joe and everything, but as you mentioned, the Ole Smoky name has become very well known. To the point that it even helped boost once you kind of switch labels. It's amazing what can happen with a flavored whiskey. Why not maybe put anything with Ole Smoky on the James Ownby label, besides obviously that it's distilled there and bottled there?
Well, we actually have Ole Smoky on the front. It's here, bottled by Ole Smoky.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the front. We're proud of it. But we felt it was such a new and different product coming from Ole Smoky. It deserved kind of its own brand name, but with the parentage, I guess you say, the heritage of Ole Smoky. And so we felt that was the right balance.
Well, I can say I got to sample some, and it was wonderful, and something that I really enjoyed, and it was kind of a pleasant surprise, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but but when you think of, from someone coming on the outside, they just make moonshine, they make flavored whiskey, what are they going to do with a regular whiskey? It was a really nice pour. I think what really stood out to me, though, is it's priced at about $40 or so for
between $40-$45, yeah.
And your moonshines are the same way. They're all very approachable in prices, and at least in terms of what you would think. And then this bourbon coming in at that price point, where others are going, $99, $100, $200, any more. Why? How do you guys keep those price points there? And how are you able to compete sometimes with those price points? Because I feel like that's, especially in the bourbon world, that's a great price point to enter, in my mind.
Well, no, it is, but we wanted to make sure that we could appeal to as many consumers as we possibly could. We also know that when you start out with a product, it's just not as efficient as it would be, 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. So we think we'll be able to to manage our costs and leverage the scale over the fullness of time, and so we wanted just to reach as many people as possible for a very high quality product.
Mm-hmm.
And $40 isn't cheap, because what's the average price of a $7.50 in the liquor store is about $24. So it's higher than that, and that doesn't appeal to everybody. Our moonshines and flavored whiskeys are in that $20 to $25 range typically. So this is a premium price, and we feel good about it. We think the quality justifies it. Could we have charged more? We probably could have done, but we want to make it appeal to many.
Well, and I love that, because, like I said, I feel like not enough are doing that anymore, and it's almost making people scared to try something new. And I feel like at 40, this is a great one to pick up off the shelf, because, like I said, it was a really good pour, and even 5 years that's a good price for a 5 year nowadays, which is getting a little harder to come by on the open market. You talked about you guys are releasing new products, got a whole bunch of new flavors and so forth. So I also want to ask, how do you guys come up with these flavors for the moonshine and the whiskey? Because is it just mad scientists in the back having fun, or what's going on?
Well, it's lots of people having fun. We have a team of people, from salespeople, marketing people, operational people, but then people in the administrative area of the company. We come together every 2 weeks to talk about new products, usually to sample what our actual product development team have done in terms of turning a concept into a product, or a product prototype, I guess you'd say. So we use those as both ideation sessions as well as tasting sessions. But then we all live our lives, we all see different ideas, and we just feed them into the process, because we have, in addition to coming together physically, during COVID it's been on Zoom, but we try to do it physically. In addition, we have weekly new product calls. We talk about the pipeline, and it's just a continual stream of ideas. And we've developed a way to launch products relatively inexpensively. We don't make a lot up front, and we can test them in our distilleries. And one of our competitive advantages is we've got the best data in the spirits business, because we have our own distilleries, our own stores. And because we get so much traffic, as we mentioned earlier, with the world's most visited distillery, pre-COVID we had over 4.5 million visitors. in our 4 distilleries. That's over double all of Scotland's distilleries, and there's 76 of them, and we have 4. The Kentucky Bourbon Trail has 18 distilleries on the trail, and they only have visitation of between 1.7 and 2 million. So we're over double the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. And so because of this tremendous traffic in our stores, we can test products very, very quickly. We know over a weekend whether a product's going to be successful or not. And so we tend to make a small quantity of a product, test it in 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 distilleries. And if it fails, and failure is okay, because if you don't fail, you're not pushing the boundaries.
True.
And we do have some failures, but we know very quickly what's going to be successful, and then we very quickly ramp up and make more of that product, so we can have good customer service in the stores by having that product available in the right quantities for the consumers who choose to buy. So we've got this, I guess you'd say it's a new product development engine, and every month we're introducing something. We introduced strawberry lemonade last week. We've got another one which will be introduced by this coming weekend, and we just got a pipeline, and we can do it because we've got the people and we have fun doing it. We think of all sorts of things. We push the envelope, and we try things, and we've got the vehicle in our stores to test it very, very quickly. A big spirits company could never do what we do because they can only go to the wholesale market, and it takes 6 months to a year to develop, and then 6 months to a year to see whether it's successful. It just takes so much time. We can do that in weeks to develop and days to know whether it's successful. And I think just one of the examples that's come out of that engine is our moonshine pickles product. Who would have thunk of putting pickles in alcohol? It's a zany idea. Well, we did it, and we knew by the Monday after we launched it on a Friday that it was going to be a big hit. Big hit. Both in our sales as well as, I think we got 5 million Facebook shares, just because of it. And so we had to refine it. We refined it with the help of the consumers in our stores in terms of getting feedback. We changed the proof. We changed the recipe of the liquid a little bit. We had to do, in fact, we have a patent pending on some parts of the recipe that make the pickles, stay green and crisp. So we developed that, and then when we felt we were ready, and we knew it was going to be successful. In fact, we were getting demand from our distributors to sell this to them. It's not like we had to push it; they were wanting it. We launched it in the second quarter of 18. Second quarter of 19 after launching it in the August of 18. So it took about 7 months to get it right, and it's been a massive success, ever since. And it's actually helped many of the other products in the portfolio because it's made the brand more approachable, more well known, and it brings people to the section in the liquor store. And I think that we are proud of launches like that have just helped the brand overall, and it's because of the new product engine that we have.
I was going to say, I mean, obviously, some things will work, some things won't. Also, I feel like you guys, it's almost like a local brewery where they get to do like their test batch, Tuesday or whatever. What's the zaniest one that, besides the pickles, that click that you guys never really thought would click?
We launched sour watermelon just about a year ago, and it was one of those things. We'd never done sour. We liked the product. In fact, we loved the product, but we just didn't know, having a sour beverage. Nobody else has done a sour beverage. I know you can have a whiskey sour cocktail, but nobody's done a sour spirit. And it just was big. So we've launched sour raspberry, which is a sour blue raspberry, sour apple, and sour lime. And we've got a couple more ideas that will be introduced in August. So the whole sour line has proven to be really very successful, and we were a bit surprised. but that's why you do it,
Well, and
And we had a debate on strawberry lemonade, and not everybody thought that was going to be a big winner. And based upon the last 5 days of sales, it looks like it could be. So you never know.
well, and that's the beauty too of scale. And if you can do smaller scale things, you can and see testing, and you're not wasting a ton of product if it doesn't work. And if it does work, then you've got some pent up demand, and things go well. You touched on this too a little bit ago, being the world's most visited distillery. What's it like having that? Because that's a lot of people coming through, and you all have to make sure you're all pretty much always on your A game, because you don't ever want anyone to leave with a bad experience. And when you have that many people in a spot, sometimes things can get a little crazy, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's a challenge. It really is. But it's such a source of competitive advantage. We work very, very hard on it. It's something that we nurture. We've got top class managers who manage the stores, both from a people point of view, hiring and retention and training, which is a very important element, but also running the business side. We've got very high quality people who manage the merchandise, because we have shirts and hats and food products. We have got pet products, so just a wide range of non-beverage consumer products, which is very important to have a very pleasant look and feel to the store, a very pleasant atmosphere. Everybody's trained to be welcoming. One of the elements of the culture of the company is to have an attitude of welcoming Southern hospitality, and everybody's encouraged. And usually people are very naturally doing that anyway, but we certainly encourage that. And then on a product point of view, we work very, very hard to make sure that the quality of the product is always up to snuff. Yes, it's quality in the new product sense, but it's sometimes easier to make a lab sample of a product, but then you've got to make a commercial sample that's as good or better on a consistent basis. And so the operations team are trained that if they don't have a product that meets quality, they can't sell it. And so we have to eat that, which is obviously a cost. But we believe it's worth that cost, so we don't put bad products out on the market. And we've only got top products for our customers in our distilleries, but also in the wholesale market to sample. So I can tell you, it is challenging having 4.5 million people come through our doors every year, but it's an honor.
Yeah.
and we treat it as that, and make sure that everybody is felt to be very welcome, and they're given the best possible experience. We offer tastings of our products. We're offering 7 samples of our products. They pay a nominal fee, but then we give them a coupon back for a purchase, so in essence it balances out as free. And we have people who are trained as tasters, who tell the consumers about the products, usually throw an odd joke in there as well, and then tell them about what they can do to buy the products, and all the products are arrayed around the store. So yes, it's challenging, but it's really an honor to have so many people come through our doors, and as I say, it's a source of competitive advantage that we're very proud of.
Well, and then like you said, you have multiple locations. You have a couple in the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area, and then I believe you have one in Nashville now too. Is that correct?
We do.
So
yeah, we're right in downtown Nashville. Yeah.
So how do they differ if one were to maybe visit any of them?
Yeah, well, we have 3, as you say, in what's called Sevier County, which is Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, and the holler in Gatlinburg and the barn in Pigeon Forge. More similarities than differences. They tend to focus more on moonshine, a little bit less on whiskey. But we have distilleries in both. We actually make product in both locations. The barrel house in Gatlinburg is more whiskey focused. So that's another distillery where we have a pot still and a column still there. And the products tend to be more on the whiskey side. We have a couple of moonshines, but on the whiskey side. But the model of those 3 is all the same, where we offer tastings. You can have a self-guided tour. We actually offer real tours, physical tours at the holler, but the other two we only offer self-guided tours. But you can come and taste, you can buy, buy some of the merchandise. We offer music at the holler. We offer music at the barn in Pigeon Forge, so you can just hang out and watch the music or listen to the music for free. But the model is pretty similar in all those three stores. Nashville is different, and it's different for two main reasons. One is we actually serve drinks there. So it's an entertainment center, so we actually have an active bar. And that's in addition to the tasting area where you can actually sample the moonshine and whiskey products and then buy them from the shelves that are all around the tasting area. So that's a big difference, is that we actually serve drinks, and so we have to have a large seating area. We've actually made it an entertainment complex where you can play cornhole, play ping pong, we've got some basketball hoops, play bocce, play foosball, which I love, and as well as seeing the products being made in the distillery. So that's the first difference. The second difference is that we actually shared it with Yeehaw Beer.
Okay.
And so this was beneficial in a couple of different ways, because whenever you share a big capital investment like a location like ours, which is about 30,000 square feet, so it's a big property, and that usually translates to a big investment. We were able to share that with Yeehaw. So that's good from a capital efficiency point of view. But then from a consumer point of view, it's also very important because we can offer beer and spirits on the menu. And so we can offer a broad range of drinks. And so, with all of the cocktails you can make from Ole Smoky and all of the wide variety of beers that Yeehaw offers, we don't get any veto votes because we're not offering wine. We're offering a very broad array. Somebody will find something on that menu that they like. And that's what we found. So we can offer a very, a broad menu of spirits products and beer products. And so that just appeals to a lot of people. And while we had some challenging times during COVID, just because of all the restrictions that were placed on many businesses, and we obviously complied, now that the weather is better and the COVID weather is better, people are just loving that place in Nashville. So all four distilleries are doing very well, but the Nashville follows a very different model.
Well, and I love to see that, because Yeehaw is a sibling to Ole Smoky, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. Joe started Yeehaw a couple of years after the investment made in Ole Smoky by the firm that I was with at the time. So, and Yeehaw's doing very nicely. Off a smaller base, but it's on a very good growth trajectory.
So, like I said, he stays busy. Y'all stay very busy with the next idea, and with all of this that's happening, and you guys offering more products, I'm sure you're also getting more demand. How do you guys keep up with that demand? Because it's a good thing, but with whiskey and certain products, you've got to be planning now for 5-6 years down the road, and that's a little more difficult.
Well, we're blessed with tremendous demand for our products, and if you have a problem, it's better to have that problem being able to supply the demand than creating the demand. And so it is actually an issue that we're working pretty hard on, and we're working all through the business system. From the cooker and the fermentation tanks to the stills, and then to the bottling equipment. And we've actually got some land in a town just a few miles away from Gatlinburg, a town called Newport, Tennessee. And we've actually got some buildings there that we're using, A, for storage, and B, we'll be getting new bottling equipment in there to speed up that process. And we've got a new still as well. Now we're a craft artisan kind of manufacturer of spirits, and we want to keep that philosophy, but you've also got to be able to satisfy demand. So we're getting some bigger bottling equipment, so the products will still be made with the same care as they are now, but then when we put into the bottling, they'll tend to be able to go a little bit more quickly than perhaps they've done in the past. And so we're adding the bottling lines, we're adding fermentation tanks, we're adding another still which we actually have got the still. We just need to get it all installed, and we're putting a lot of time into that to just to keep our customer service up, both for our wholesale customers as well as our distillery customers, because to have an empty space on the shelf is not good for anybody, and we're working very hard to to give that service that we believe our customers deserve.
Well, and like you said, it's a good problem to have that people want more of what you're making. That means you're making something pretty darn good. And my last question, I always like to ask this, and it's whatever you can tell me because this is recorded, but what's next for y'all, and whether it's the moonshine or the whiskey or just some other fun projects that you can talk about.
Yeah, well, we want to continue building our core moonshine and whiskey business. It's growing very rapidly over the last couple of years. In fact, year to date in 2021, we've already sold as much as we did in all of 2019.
Oh wow!
So we've doubled the business in just a couple of years. So we're very proud of that. But we also know that there's still liquor stores around the country that don't have Ole Smoky. We're in all 50 states. We're in stores in all 50 states. We're in over 20 countries. But there's still places that don't have Ole Smoky or don't have as much Ole Smoky as we think they should have. And we think it could be profitable as liquor store owners for them to have Ole Smoky, and they're missing out on an opportunity to capitalize on that. So our number one focus will be building our core moonshine and whiskey business in all 50 states. And we're also developing a few more international relationships, and hopefully that will lead to more business and satisfied customers as well. Then for James Ownby is in quite limited distribution. Our product supply is not all that great at the moment. We'll be building that over time when it's ready. We'll be going to more markets, and as we mentioned earlier, we're planning on another variety. In 1.5 to 2 years would be a reasonable estimation for that. But then also thirdly, we entered the ready-to-drink canned cocktail market. We actually did it on a test basis just about this time last year. We're now selling in 23 states with our Ole Smoky Tennessee moonshine cocktails. They're the only cocktails on the market made with moonshine. And so there's a point of difference. Currently, we offer them in 4 flavors. We're just going to be developing that business and getting it established in the 23 states that we're currently in, and then over the fullness of time, when our supply is able to satisfy the demand, we'll be going national with that. So we have any number of growth opportunities, and I guess one of my responsibilities is to figure out which one we do first, and because whatever we do, we want to do really well, and so usually you can't do everything at once, so we've got to prioritize, and that's what we try to do.
I was going to say, you don't ever have a slow day, do you?
No, we never have a slow day. No, it's interesting. Yeah, we're one of the largest employers now in East Tennessee, and so just to keep up with all the people, and we all try to have some fun as well. So it makes for a busy time, but it's a good time, and enjoying myself.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. And like I said, you guys are doing something good when you're able to keep growing. And like I said, I was pleasantly surprised in a very good way with James Ownby. It's something that I think that people can get their hands on at any of your distilleries or the select markets down there. They really should, because like I said, at $40, that was a great pour. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. So
good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and keep enjoying it.
Absolutely. And Robert, I appreciate you taking time to talk a little moonshine and whiskey with us. And I can't wait to see what's next from Ole Smoky.
Good. I wish you all the best, and enjoy being with you. Thank you.
I had a lot of fun talking with Robert. It was cool to see how they were able to, launch a bourbon line. I mean, they have their flavored whiskeys, but, this is a straight bourbon, kind of what bourbon lovers would expect to see on the shelves, and it's really cool to see the family heritage being displayed there, and just such a cool story. And I appreciate him taking the time to talk moonshine with us as well, flavored whiskey, and of course the James Ownby bourbon label. Don't forget, if like I said, check us out on all of our social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're also on YouTube, so subscribe there and give us a like, a review, 5-star review on your favorite podcast player. It really helps us, and we truly appreciate all of you. And don't forget to check out our website, hopspirits.com, where you can get all this information and more. And you can sign up for our newsletter, our Cocktail Quickie monthly newsletter, where we send you recipes twice a month, so you can have a little fun at home. Until next time, cheers, everyone.